trouble. Got a block behind him. Gonna throw and a run, complete to the 25, to the 30. Lindsey's got 35, 40. Lindsey's got 45, 50, 45, 40. Run, Lindsey, 25, 20, 50, 10, 5. Lindsey's got, Lindsey's got, Lindsey's got.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Dogs Down South. It is Tuesday night. Thanks for joining. We are live. Right now, we are live on YouTube, Facebook. So go follow us on Dogs Down South. If you're watching or tuning in right now, share the podcast. It is the off season right now, so we're just gonna have some fun tonight. We have a lot of cool topics to talk about, but we are counting down the days until G-Day. I do have, as always, hanging out with me. Let's find them. Here we are, man. We got Bobby Ryals and Adam Fisher. What's up, Bobby? What's up, Fish? How are you guys?
What's up?
Great, what's up?
Good to have you guys, as always. This is kind of starting to be the stay-at-home crew, man. So
Yes,
it's just getting fun. This is getting fun. So right out of the gates, man, we haven't hung out in a few weeks, so lots to talk about, a lot of things going on. I figured a lot of the show tonight would be centered around some mailbag stuff. We are up to 1,100 followers over on TikTok. Been live over there a couple of times. It's been really cool to hear, man, the great college football fans all around the world, and to hear how they love their team and they somehow hate Georgia, which is cool, man. It's what it is. I mean, coming from a Georgia fan, they're all chiming in. I love it, man.
Nice
something's got to keep
for a change,
right? Or something's got to keep the pageantry of college football going, because the NIL dang should be keeping it going, man. So I dig it, man. Bobby, how are you, man? How's life in Georgia, man?
Yeah, it's great, man. Other than all this rain, we got some sunshine today with a lot of wind, but it's just good to see the sun shining, man. And
I hear you.
Getting excited for football, dude. Like, yeah, I'm a big baseball guy too. That's around the corner now. The Super Bowl's over with. It's baseball season, but it's like football talk season never ends, right? We can always find something to discuss, right? So
exactly. I agree, man.
It's awesome, but it's a year-round thing now.
Yeah, man. I agree. Fish, how about you, man? You're more of that eastern corner
Southeast
down there?
on the coast. Yes, sir.
There you go. How's weather down there?
Oh man, my old man showing. I wish the weather would just figure itself out.
Yeah, man.
Hot in the afternoon, cold at night. Like it was 74 this afternoon, and now it's already 52. I mean, come on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we Floridians down here, man. We don't like that mess. We don't like it. I mean, we got the 85 yesterday, man, and now we're like,
wow.
Today
85.
we were like 63, and we're like, we got the boots back out and the hoodies and it's wild, dude. You just see in Florida, man, people don't know how to dress to stay warm. They just go to the extreme. They're like, it's Alaska or nothing at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here with like hoodies and shorts. That's kind of like the uniform.
Hoodies and shorts, man.
Yeah.
You won't see that here, bro. When you get older, man, the blood don't flow the same. Your feet stay cold, your legs everything stays cold, man. Only kids get
starts with the feet.
There you go. So boys, let's a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces since we all hopped on last time. Number one, one of the number one stories out there, man, and just chaos going on right now in this coaching carousel, and just teams and universities trying to get their stuff right, coming off of portal and recruiting season and National Signing Day, which has come to be a snoozer because it's kind of like early signing day. The importance of getting those players onto college campus and having those 15 to 17 bowl practices are very important. You almost
portal
get to go ahead. What'd you say?
Sorry, I was going to say the portal kind of outshines signing day now too.
Yeah, it's just like it doesn't even exist. But the importance of having them on campus, it's almost like now when some of these kids get in there at the end of the spring, they're almost, the feel of it is like they're another year behind, And so having those, I think it was 13 to 14 early enrollees was incredible. But let's start with some big news out of UCLA. So Chip Kelly leaves UCLA, head coaching position at UCLA, and slides on over there to Ryan Day at Ohio State. Obviously, because they made room for. I mean, it's just all a debacle, man. I mean, O'Brien didn't even set his office up at Ohio State before he goes and takes the head coaching position at Boston College. And so you see this little carousel happen. What do we think about, I'll ask you, Fish, first, like, what do we think about Chip Kelly at Ohio State?
I think Bill O'Brien's going to build a dynasty at Boston College.
He could, man. I mean, that's back in his own stomping grounds, right? His wife went there. His wife
a little more, competitiveness in the ACC wouldn't hurt anything.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. Chip Kelly, I don't know. I don't know. He hasn't really, since Oregon, he hasn't really found a spot where he just succeeded, So I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I know he's a good offensive mind, and I know Ryan Day is as well. And with some of the players they're going to have this year, I don't know, man. I think they're going to look good.
I mean, Boston, it's right there in his old stomping grounds, Yep. When he coached for the Patriots, his wife was Boston College alumni. That's gotta mean something, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Bobby? What do you think, Bobby? I mean, it's a two-leg question. It's, what do you think about Chip Kelly to Ohio State? What do you think about O'Brien to Boston College, that whole circle?
Yeah, man, I'll make it really brief about the Chip Kelly thing. So when I think any coach with the last name Kelly, I think overrated. They just
obviously the shade to LSU and Brian Kelly.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it is what it is, dude. You're elite. You can be okay, and that's really, in my opinion, that's what Chip Kelly is, and that's what Brian Kelly is. Right? They're just okay. If I'm looking to rebuild my program, neither one of those two guys are on my list. They're just not on my list. O'Brien, I think Boston College is probably a good move for him.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. ACC has the door wide open for somebody to come in and be competitive.
Yeah.
Right? It's not it's not the SEC where you've got these powerhouse schools that have been dominating for a long time. Clemson this past year kind of slid down, not quite what they'd been known for.
Better buy real estate.
Yeah. Florida State had a strong season, right? But they paid for a lot of that talent with NIL and transfer portal. And you saw kind of the culture hit it took in the bowl game and what happened there. And so I don't know that you're really building a program at Florida State. You could have hit or miss success. Really don't know what they're going to do this year, but honestly, man, Tech is looking stronger in the ACC. And so I think that as a head coach, if I was picking a conference, like a Power 5 conference to hitch my cart to, it would be the ACC.
Yeah. O'Brien, he's a play caller guy, and I've heard he's circling the wagons. He's going to get all this NFL talent in there, and that sounds all great. But guys, you understand that when you're getting NFL talent, your footprint on the NFL game, it's nowadays it's like hot potato. It's if you don't win in the NFL, you leave very quickly, and sometimes it can be just because of the fact that we all know it's like who do you have on the team, how much money do you have. Things of that nature. It's not always the characteristic of the fact that you didn't have a great team. Sometimes you can have difficult owners. I mean, we've all seen. I mean, and I'm not a Dallas Cowboys hater, but
Jerry
Jones hater, dude. Get out of there, man. Come on, somebody.
Just step
have
back,
you ever
man.
thought to look at yourself in the mirror and understand why your team is not producing like they should? Have you looked at the fact that you might be? Yeah, I'll stop there because I was going to go even off on the left a little bit more, but. Circling back around, I just think Bill O'Brien, I think it's a great fit for him. I don't know how he's going to do there as far as Boston College. I don't know how much support he's going to have and what he's going to bring around him. But what I will tell you is it is very interesting to see Chip Kelly at Ohio State. I will tell you that he is a very dynamic play caller if he has the right talent. And when he was at Oregon, that was what made him turn. He had really great talent, some of the quarterbacks that came through his systems, some of the offense, and I feel like he was doing a lot with a little, kind of like, I would say we may see why he wasn't successful at UCLA. I mean, he hit the ground running. He was like, offensive coordinator position, Ohio State. Is this my best bet right here? Like, is this as good as it gets that I'm going to get an offer this year to where I don't go backwards? Yeah, I'll go. And you know what? It might be a great move because if he goes in there, if he has a great year, Ohio State's going to have great talent this year. And if for some reason they were able to win the Big Ten and then make the playoff and then go deep in the playoff, then Chip Kelly becomes a prominent name. Chip Kelly has been stuck down the depth chart of head coaches since he's taken over at UCLA. He's been stuck down the depth chart of head coaches for a while now. So maybe a good move for him. Does it make? Here's my question to you, and I'll ask you, Bobby, first. Do you think it makes Ohio State scarier now that because it was O'Brien, but maybe Day was like that name wasn't available before he picked O'Brien. So do we think there was some sort of absolutely, Bill O'Brien to Boston College, this is actually a better fit? Like, do you think it's more scarier than O'Brien?
Well, I mean, when I see O'Brien, I think about, right, like he was at Bama, right, not long ago, right?
Yeah.
And really took a thrashing from Bama fans because of the play calling.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to X's and O's, like neither one of those guys are my go-tos. I mean, they're just not, right? And you said something earlier about, when he was in Oregon, when he had the talent, he did well. Well, I mean, the truth,
he had a lot of talent in Oregon.
Right. And the true test of how good you are as a leader is what do you do when you don't have the talent, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a ton of talent, you can be a mediocre coach and have success, right? But when you have to develop and you have to scheme and you have to do all that, neither one of those guys really stand out to me. It's just not neither one of them. I don't look at either one of them and say, "Oh, wow, what a great hire." I just, it's just my opinion, but I don't see either one of those guys as. I mean, like if Georgia hired him, I'd be like, "Man, was there nobody else?"
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fish. What do you think? You think he's a little more deadly than O'Brien?
I think they hired a name for recruiting, for whatever, for what just mystique.
Right.
Just that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't really
to
proven
the Bama hire, right? I mean, who they're talking about for Bama, right? Both Kelly and O'Brien certainly have bigger names than the guy that's going to step in where Grubb left.
Yeah, so Grubb and this guy, last name is they've shared, and I think that we can switch to that. We can slide bar to that. It's like that. Like that's my first video tomorrow, man. That's my first video to the Ask the Alabama fans. Like, what do you think about this? Like, and I think Bobby, you made something very noticeable thing that you said. You said, this is a DeBoer thing now. Like DeBoer is not gonna have his hands away from the offense now, but now you pull in a tight ends coach that basically maybe he's a name that came from Washington with them, so he knows the offense, he knows what's going on. However, like, how does that fit into? It's not a Ryan Grubb though, I mean, it's just not a Ryan Grubb. This Alabama, to me, I'm going to say it. Alabama should be very, very worried. They should be very, very worried because this just went not only to the second lowest bidder but there was not Fish, you said it, there wasn't a name out there. You're not Nick Saban, so you can't just go call your shot. Like Nick Saban could go get 75% or 80% about anybody who he really wanted that was in a situation that they wanted to get away from would go. Like, I'll be honest, like take this one. If Cliff Kingsbury is available and he's going through this Washington, Las Vegas debate, and Nick Saban steps in and goes, "Hey, I just lost my offensive coordinator. I want you to come to see that right there." To me, there's Kingsbury's, that's his rejuvenating story right there. That's his Sarkisian style story.
Yeah.
But he didn't have Saban. He didn't have that, right? And so he enters back into the NFL, and now he's going to go to a very weird spot. But we could go on for days. But I just think when you look at the scenario, Alabama, and I'll let you guys chime in on this. Alabama should be very scared or not scared with this pivot. What do you think, Fish?
I don't know, man. I don't think Saban's there to have do the best coaching job that he's ever done this time. I think if it goes south, it's just going to go south. I think it's just going to sink. I mean, it's right now, really, it's 50-50 because nobody really knows what to expect. You know, I mean, what's it going to look like? What's the offense going to look like? What's the defense going to look like? I mean, some of the players are still going to be there, but the schemes and everything are going to be different. You know, Saban's handprint will still be there somewhat, but I mean, how much?
Right. Bobby, you think this is a step back for Alabama? They should be worried.
No, not really. Just because, I mean, you still got DeBoer, right? And he's a pretty when it comes to X's and O's, like DeBoer is top tier. Like he's a good X's and an O guy, right? What he did at Washington with less talent shows exactly that, right? And that's what I talk about when I talk about O'Brien and Kelly. Like they're not on, in my opinion, they're not on DeBoer's level of scheming, right? To me, though, while we're on Alabama, to me, the biggest news that would leave me kind of skeptical about what kind of season I'm going to have is the fact that Saban took that role with ESPN.
That man wasn't about the.
So he's not going to be as available for being a mentor, so to speak, for the DeBoer administration. And so to me, that brings more question to the how strong Alabama is going to be, right? Like, with him gone, right? Like there was all this hope he was going to maintain an office, and now he's going to be on the golf course and spending his other time doing ESPN assignments, right? So he's just not going to have. He's not going to be there as much as I think they had anticipated that he would be there. And so I think that is probably a bigger deal. In my eyes, that's a bigger deal than the whole Grubb being gone thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and Fish, I think you're just going to say this, and I'm going to let you chime in on it, but I don't think, you know how they have this like layer of, some people are saying like when you look at the NFL and you look at like the Chiefs, congratulations to the Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl. I think we all knew Tay and the boys. Cole Hardman, Georgia football alum, catches
Malik
the
Herring too. He played a lot.
Dude, yeah. I'll tell you who. I don't want to go too far yet, but dude, I love Conley, man. Conley was the epitome of a Georgia player and what Kirby Smart does in an organization, because Conley would have only been known to catch a 30-yard pass that game, but instead he had his footprint on that entire game. But saying all this to say, when you look at the pageantry of like what is going on in the NFL, where they're like, oh, there's this like script, right? It's like you got Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and the NFL wants, the Chiefs in here. It's good for TV. It's good for money. It's almost like you look at this wave of Alabama. You look at the DeBoer hire. It wasn't the big name. It might not be the name that Alabama wanted. And then you have to weave in and go, oh, but Nick Saban, like he's not going anywhere. Like he's going to be helping out with the organization. He's going to have an office. He's going to do this. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, here's College Game Day. They want Nick Saban. You can't tell me that this, I mean, do you see the gaps in all these announcements? Like, they're very spread out. There's timeliness to all of this. There was no truth, and I'll let you finish this, but I just don't think there was any truth, Fish, in anything that was going to happen with Nick Saban. He was golf course bound, and he knew the plan the whole time. What do you think?
That was definitely just to soften the blow to prevent chaos, because there was already chaos in the streets in Tuscaloosa. When he announced his retirement, everybody freaked out, and they had to do something. They have to say something,
right?
To calm people down, to keep people from abandoning ship or jumping off the bandwagon, I should say.
Right.
They want to keep that bandwagon nice and full.
Right. Yeah, man. And you don't, dude. There's no telling what Alabama fans will do, man. Like, statues could have been ripped down. They let elephants loose in town. Like, who knows, man?
Just
like, I don't even
the Birmingham Zoo would go nuts.
Right.
Elephants everywhere.
Man. Exactly, man. Like,
hide your farm animals and your cousins.
Bro, more dentists have business than they've ever had. They're like, you know what? Forget about it. I'm getting my teeth back, bro.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a shot for Alabama. I apologize. I said that. We need to cut that out of the podcast.
Catch some heat for that. That's okay.
Yeah, we will. That's
but, here's the thing, man. When you look, it's just you gotta go, man. They already are gonna have this elephant in the room when the season starts, right? It's gonna be, Nick. Yeah, there you go. Nick Saban. It's Alabama. It's the story of. I mean, can you imagine? This is incredible for week 1, right? Game day. You got Nick Saban sitting on the set, and we're talking about, is Alabama gonna be the same team with Kalen DeBoer? And you just so happen to have Nick Saban sitting on the set answering the questions. And I mean, can you just see this all panning out? It just looks like Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing all over again, man. I mean, bravo to game day. But man, you got and then we can slide into this one as well, but it'll go easy. But you got my man Corso, who's coming into another year.
This has to be his last year.
God bless him, man. Like, I hope he's healthy this year.
I love him. I know. I wish he could go on forever. Like, I wish he was just some sort of like android or something, and he was just having to age for TV purposes, or whatever, just to keep it real.
So you got Desmond, who's been a little bit more talkative the last few years. Then you got Pat McAfee, who's flexing and ripping his shirt off, and then they just love that back and forth with Saban that would go on. So now you got Saban, who doesn't like to run his mouth, who's going to be probably super awkward on the show. And then you got my man, Mr. Kirk Herbstreit, who all Georgia fans are right now not too happy with this guy because of a lot of leaked information about how, we were talking about tampering a couple weeks back with Kalen DeBoer and in Arizona, but now we got tampering coming out of the ESPN set with the possibility that, Kirk Herbstreit told Dylan Raiola, hey, go to Nebraska, go make a legacy out there. You can turn that program around, and really pushing him and kind of shoving him out there and giving him his, this Kirk Herbstreit, man. I mean, you can say what you want to about Kirk Herbstreit, but he is a name in college football. He's probably one of the most, he's kind of the Ryan Seacrest of announcers right now. He's hip. He's new. He's got the swag kind of thing. Everybody wants him to announce anything. People just want him to come out and just read their starting lineup because it's Kirk Herbstreit.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this whole, Dylan Raiola to Nebraska and Kirk Herbstreit? Like, do we think it's a big deal, or do we think that it's kind of overdrawn out? I'll go to you first, Bobby. What do you think?
Honestly, man, I may be in the minority. It doesn't bother me at all, right? Like, what he's saying is true, right? If Raiola goes to Nebraska and has success, he will be the hero at Nebraska. If he goes to Georgia and has success, he'll just be another successful quarterback at the University of Georgia because of the recent success. So I don't fault Kirk Herbstreit for what he said there at all.
Right.
Like, I'm not mad at the guy. He told the truth. I mean, it is the truth, right? Whether and I've read some things that the conversation didn't quite really take place like that. But to me, it doesn't really matter. And I'll be honest with you, when watching Raiola this season, at Buford, like he just, to me, I didn't see improvement. It just looked like he was good, but he
Right.
was not. I didn't see him go, man, we are so blessed to have him coming into Georgia,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that being disgruntled because he chose to go to Nebraska. To me, when I look at the raw talent, like stacked side by side, I'll take Puglisi 5 out of 5 times.
Mhm.
He's more athletic. To me, Raiola, not to, I mean, I don't want to be mean, but like his shape, he's lazy. Like he's not even in
Yeah.
shape as a quarterback, right?
Apparently he
Um,
showed up. Apparently he showed up about 14 pounds heavier than he
yeah,
was 2 games before the end of the season, is what I heard. So I heard
yeah,
Wow.
he showed up on Nebraska's campus a little
right.
hefty.
And
Um,
if that's how you're going to take care of your body as an elite athlete, you're
mhm.
probably not good Georgia material. So
Yeah, Fish. What do you think, Herbie?
I think
You don't like Herbie
Herbie.
too much, do you?
No, I do. I
Okay,
do. I just think
trying
I
to
don't
stir the
know.
pot a little bit.
It's a bad look, but I don't think there's anything really wrong with what he said. I
Mhm.
think I think he wants to spread the wealth, so to
Mhm.
speak, spread the talent, and I think that's where his heart was. I think that's what he was saying without saying it.
I think you're being nice,
And
man. Tell us the conspiracy you thought about, man. I was with that junk. I was with that. Like I'm
oh
busting
yeah,
this out right
yeah,
now because I
that
I
was
was a
with
good
think
that, bro.
take.
I think since the whole broadcasting thing is changing. I think Big Ten is exclusive, Peacock and
Mhm.
CBS now, and Fox, and
Mhm.
then SEC is going to be ESPN, and I think he's a Midwest guy anyway, and I think he will get reprimanded a little bit,
Mhm.
behind the scenes. And I think he'll be a little disgruntled, and I think he'll jump ship, and I think he'll be working for Fox or
Mhm.
CBS, maybe someone that covers Big Ten more, like more so than ESPN's going to be in the next few years.
Yeah.
But
I
I
mean, dude,
definitely think that's going to happen.
when I read it, man, I was like, this man's got a possibility here. I mean, this is a point. And
I mean,
ESPN,
he'd be
man,
way
like,
more happy. I mean, it would make total sense.
Yeah,
yeah, ESPN has not been known to, and they find their 4 or 5 that they like, and then they lock them down. But I mean, look at what Chris Berman has had to do. I mean, I look at Chris Berman as one of the most talented you know broadcasters in a long, long, long time. I mean,
Oh, he's one of
he's
my
the voice
favorites.
of the NFL, man. As a kid, like
Yep.
baseball and football, like I just heard his voice on repeat, man. And the guy has
Yep.
had to jump through hoops in the past 10 years, not to stay relevant. I don't think that's what he wants to do, but just to be a guy that continues to be one of the big ones that carries on the ESPN name. And to
Yeah.
me, he's like the Corso. What Corso is to game day is what he is to baseball and to professional baseball from ESPN and to professional football
Man.
from ESPN. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, man. And a lot of that was said to be when they meshed ways with Disney and all these things, and we could go into conspiracies. But dude,
I
let's
think
get
I
to
just wanted to take
go ahead.
politics. I just want them to take politics out of sports, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's bad, dude.
it's so annoying, man. Like I stopped watching. I don't even watch ESPN like
Hmm.
broadcasts very much
Yeah,
anymore. Um, if there's a game on there, I want to watch, but like Sports
yeah.
Center and stuff like that, I just
I was
Oh
gonna say
man,
the
no.
same thing,
Sports
man.
Center is way different. I don't watch Sports Center near as much as I used to. In fact, hardly any at all, unless Georgia's like playing for the national championship or something like that. Like really,
Yeah, man.
it's not
I
what it used to
miss
be.
I miss the da-na-na, da-na-na. Like I miss
Da-na-na.
the Berman, the
Damn,
Berman
Patrick Keith
slogans and just
Oberman,
Oberman.
Stuart
Yeah,
Scott's the one that I miss,
Stuart
man.
Scott,
Stuart
yes
Scott,
sir.
Bless his
man.
soul, man.
Greg
God
That
rest that
Kilborn.
guy, man.
dude was awesome.
Sheesh. It ain't what it ain't what it used to be. There's not a lot of things that are the way they used to be, but hey, let's
No,
have
that's
some
true.
fun. Let's answer some mailbag questions, some TikTok mailbag questions. These are either TikTok inbox questions or mailbag questions. So let's hit this one first. So So I was told in one of my posts that I needed to grow up from a dad about NIL. Said apparently this has always happened, paying for players. So if it was already happening, like why do we need to change it? Change it, NIL that is. So in other words, he's basically what he's saying is I'm basically talking about how we've talked about this on this podcast before, that the pageantry of college football is we're at doomsday in some areas, because right now, you look at the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Texases, the Michigans. You look at the footprint of the pageantry of what college football is to them. With Georgia, it's UGA, it's Sanford Stadium, it's the hedges. Which, by the way, we're getting new hedges, guys.
Yes,
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because those hedges have a lot of wins in them. But but when you look at it, like what I was referring to is NIL is, I feel like it's just taking. We've talked about it. It's taking the sport down. But yes, it's been around. Like we pay to play has happened. It's been behind the scenes. So I was told to grow up. But here's my thing: if it was already happening, then why did we change it, right? Because okay, so yes, some universities were not getting the punishment they deserve, this, that, and the other. But NIL basically makes it to where you got to do something just blatantly, absolutely out there in the open wrong, or they're not catching it. I mean, we talked about the latest thing with the tampering with DeBoer and the guy from Arizona with NIL. We talked about the quarterback from Tennessee and what was going on with that when he signed his $8 million NIL. There's been nothing else about it. But yet you go back to the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart days, USC, and we all know there was a ton of money flying around right there.
They better get that man the Heisman back.
Right. So my thing is, why now? Why is NIL say let's change it? Why does the NCAA say change it now? Because I think we were doing as good a job as we could do to patrol it, but I think it added more headaches to add NIL than it did to chase down who was abusing paying players. What do you think, Bobby?
Man, I really think NIL was brought to level a playing field because you really started to see some programs just develop better, right? And when that happens and those programs start having success, that's where all the top recruits want to go. Alabama, right. Georgia, right? Those two schools were really starting to walk away from everyone in development wise, right? Especially under Saban and Smart and other schools, man. I could imagine them going to the NCAA crying like there's not enough parity, right?
Right.
And so I think NIL was kind of brought in to say, okay, hey, if you got the money to spend, and initially I think NIL was good. I just don't think the powers to be had enough foresight,
right,
to see what could happen with it, right? Like, so an athlete being able to profit off of their name, their image, and their likeness, nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But when you start using it as a recruiting tool, right? We'll give you a $2 million NIL deal here. We'll give you a $750,000 one here. Then it becomes a battle of who has the deepest pockets, right? Yeah. And I see it ruining small programs that just don't have funding like that. They're just never going to be able to compete. So you're back to the same drawing board. You just got a few more players now that it's with the pocketbooks. You've got Texas that can come in. You've got Texas A&M. You've got, Michigan. You've got all these other schools, right, that on the development level may not be able to compete because they have deep pockets.
Right.
They're now able to compete. So it gives you a few more teams. But at the end of the day, you're still going to see those same programs are still going to be elite because those are the ones with the deep pockets. They're the ones that spend a ton on recruiting and development. So I thought NIL was good, in the beginning. They just did not have enough foresight to see what could happen and where it was going to go. And they did absolutely a poor job of regulating all of that.
Right. Right. So let's pitch part 2 to you, Fish. Do you think that NIL would be helpful if we maybe looked at what would happen to a person that left, that was an active player on a college team and left and went to another team? Is there a rule for that? And would it be helpful if there was a rule for if you gave anybody any kind of NIL contract coming in as a freshman, coming out of high school, that some kind of contract is signed? Do we think contracts maybe can solve some of these issues with NIL right now?
Possibly. I know that something needs to happen because right now, I mean, it was just so wide. It's so wide open that even just the rules that they do have now, the guidelines, like the whole Nico and Tennessee thing, just to kind of make it seem like nitpicking,
Right.
because it's so wide open. There are no official guidelines. I mean, there are, but they're cloudy. I
Yeah.
mean, there needs to be. I mean, it needs to be regulated a little.
Right.
And I
Look.
mean, it's good for some teams, like Ole Miss is a team that's a lot better than they ever have been,
Mhm.
for the transfer portal and NIL and stuff like that. And, just I think, but there's more teams that are not going to benefit from it, that are going to suffer from it
Right.
and miss out on some of those names and some of those players, because of it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're going to have to regulate it, but they're not going to do it without pissing some people off.
Right.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think the best thing I've heard is if you are an active college football player. So let's say I am a freshman in college, and I had a phenomenal year, and I didn't take any NIL money from the University of Georgia. Then all of a sudden, it's like I'm not going to play my sophomore year because this guy stayed. Right, he was a junior, but he was going to go, but he didn't go, so he stayed. So I'm like, I want playing time, and a lot of people would like to have me. So you can go, you can take this NIL contract, right? But if you left and you were enrolled in a university, you could do it once. But if you jump ship again, it goes back to the old rule. You got to sit. You can do it once. Make it good. Make it good because you got one shot. So you can't just go, you can't be Pop and leave Georgia and go to Kentucky and get the money and get the year and then go and be like, oh, you know what? I got a COVID year after this year. Maybe I can go to, I don't know, LSU will give me another $1 million and I can go try it at LSU. No, you can go to LSU, but you're going to be 23 years old sitting at a year to play at LSU. So you better just go to the NFL. Now, and here's the layer for the high school kid. If a high school kid takes any amount of money from that university as an incoming freshman, they have to stay with that school for 2 years. They have to play their freshman and sophomore year there. If they would like, and I think that's fair because I'll tell you why. I still have 2 years of eligibility. And we all know that it only takes one breakout year of eligibility to be seen for the NFL to come and get you, and put you in a first, second, third round spot. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the fairest things I've heard. If you take money, if you don't take any money, fine. You're free game. You can go, and then you fall into the second grouping. Whereas you didn't take any money, you weren't happy with your freshman year. You can go your freshman year somewhere else as a sophomore. Now, if you take a contract, you play. You're there. But if you try to move again, it's under the old NCAA rule. You got to sit. That's the best thing I've heard because at least it creates a level for the older player and it creates a level of commitment to high school kids because let's be honest, high school kids are looking for two things right now in this system. They're looking for playing time and they're looking for money. Unless you're that 10 to 15% that are coming in going, I'm not really interested in just playing my first year. I want to be developed. If I get what I need and then I'm developed how I need and I get in the game and I can perform up to my standard, then I'm good to go. That's in the low 15 to 20% of players right now. The good thing is that Georgia's getting a lot of those players. And that's incredible because I do see that in a lot of this class this year. This class is going to be, I'm going to go out there and just say I think this is going to be one of Kirby Smart's most incredible classes that he's ever signed. I mean, the talent level and the stars that went up on some of these players, minus Portal. This is one of the most talented recruiting hauls I've ever seen in college football in a long, long time. The amount of running back studs, the amount of linebacker studs, the amount of secondary studs, the amount of linemen that are going to possibly sit some this year because the line is so talented this year coming back.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
ridiculous.
It's really crazy. It's going to be an incredible class. But I do think that would, if they would like to come to us to figure out the NIL piece of it as far as to get it back, I think that would fix it. I think it would create a little bit more of less of like, oh, well, where am I going? I'm just going to the paycheck. We don't even know what color uniform they have. We don't know what the university's like. We don't even know if I'm going to like the teachers there. We don't really even care. I mean, Caleb Downs showed that. The guy was like, where am I going? I mean, I've heard so many layers of that story after we broke it. I mean, Caleb Downs did not even know where he was going. He did not even know. He knew that Ohio State upped it, Dad got involved, and then apparently it was what would you do type thing, and then it was like Dad said, well, if this happens, we should do this. If this happens, we should do this. And then basically Dad comes back and says, well, this is what happened, so we told Ohio State you're coming there. Dude, can you imagine that as a kid? It's like, well, I mean, I know about me. I'm like, well, I know I said it, but like, is that what I really want to do? We'll never know, because Dad got involved, which I did hear that a lot about Kirby, and maybe they didn't get along or things of that nature. But let's move on. So we had another question that talks about who do we think's who has the breakout year from Georgia among returning starters from last year? I thought this was a cool question. This was actually one of our email questions. The names that were thrown in there were C.J. Allen, Ra Thomas, Dom Lovett, Malachi Starks, Carson Beck, Smile Munden, and if not any in here, who? So, I mean, honestly, Carson's fair to be in here because Carson had a great year this year, but Carson could have just a stellar year this year. He could have a worse year this year.
Year.
For Georgia fans, we don't want that to happen, but
I'll
go to each one of you guys and let you give your take. If you had to pick on your own or one of these names, like who do you think is your breakout year this year for Georgia? Bobby?
Yeah, so I guess you got to kind of define breakout, right? So like when I think of Carson Beck, like we know what he's got. We know he's very talented. We know he has the ball skills. He's got the vision. He's got the brain, right? Like, so to me, anything he does is really not breakout in my opinion, because I kind of expect it. So when I'm thinking of breakout, I'm thinking of somebody having a great year that I'm not really expecting. And out of that list, really the only one that I would say I don't expect to like really blow it out of the water would probably be Ra Thomas, right? I expect Munden to have a great season. I expect Malachi Starks to have a great season. Maybe not on that list. Maybe Michael Williams. I honestly, after what I saw last year, C.J. Allen, I kind of expect him to have a great season this year. So to me, it wouldn't be. It's so subjective because it just really depends on what you mean by breakout, right? Like it's like, hey, here I am. I'm here. I'm cemented. I've made my way. But those guys, to me, man, are already great. Like, and we know it. So I think Ra probably has the biggest area of opportunity to accelerate from where he was last year. So that would probably be my take.
Yeah. So I hear Ra. What about you, Fish? What do you think? If they don't have to be on that list.
I like Bobby's point about expecting people are expected to be, do their job and be great. But I think we definitely need C.J. Allen to be a stud this year. Mm-hmm. He's going to be the full-time starter. He definitely needs to be a stud. Yeah. Carson Beck, can't improve too much more. I mean, he can. Right. He can throw for over 5,000 yards or something crazy like that. But, he had a breakout year last year, I think, because nobody expected him to be that good. Nobody knew what he was going to be like. Mm-hmm. So, like Malachi, he's already proven himself. Like he's a stud status all day long. Yeah. Give me Warren Brinson.
Okay. Okay. That's a really good choice because we need
Our
a
Stackhouse.
presence on that
Boom.
defensive line. We need a presence on
D-line.
that defensive line. That's a really good one. Brinson was, I think, a difference maker. And, we said this before. We can talk about a depleted Florida State team. But Brinson was starting to do some Jordan Davis type things against Florida State where he was having to have two people block him. Everybody will tell you that if Nakobe Dean owes anybody any lifelong money, it's Jordan Davis, because Jordan Davis took on that second level block of Nakobe Dean every single time. And it left Nakobe Dean able to do whatever he wanted to. And I think when you get back to that, and I think Georgia's looking for that this year, we're going to be, I think that Kirby looks at the secondary. I think he feels good about that now that T-Rob's back there, Dante Williams is back there. He kind of has the Fran Brown, substitution thing in there. Will's going to be an analyst now. I think he has enough in that area where Kirby's been comfortable for a long time. I think you're going to see Kirby really turn his head this year a lot more towards the trenches. He's going to be like, look, we got beat in the trenches this year. If we don't get beat in the trenches, Georgia is a national champion again in 2023, 24. We had the offense to do it. We had the secondary to do it. We had everything, but in my opinion, where Alabama got us, which was in the trenches in some of those areas. That could be very deadly for Georgia. If Kirby turns his attention to the trenches like he turns it towards the secondary, because you can see in his hires what he's done. He's like, I need somebody to just, like, I like the secondary. It's my thing, but I need somebody to be able to, if I turn my head, these guys are going to give it what I usually give it, because I need to give what I need to give here. So that's an interesting pick right there.
I like that. Yeah. I just real quick, kind of a combination of what both you guys said. That defensive line breakout stud does so much. Anytime you get a defensive lineman up front who can draw a double team, you free somebody up to get to the quarterback, right? And that's the thing. We did not have anybody up front this past year that you had to double up, right? And if you can create that, you create one heck of a mismatch, and then you think about, man, not only that, you had Jordan Davis and you had Jalen Carter.
And Devontae Wyatt, man.
Yes.
Right. That's why Channing Tindall and what's his name? The dude to get number 1 pick for the Jaguars. That's why they look so good.
Trayvon Walker,
Yeah, that's why they look great. They were coming off the edge, Nakobe in the middle. I mean, and then Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and Jalen Carter rotating in. Man, come on.
You could have that again, though, man. There are some young guys who can come in there, and I expect to fully, with either this year or next year, get it done on that D line.
People said Hall's going to turn a corner this year, man. Big baby.
I believe so.
What's his name? What's his first name?
Is it Jordan Hall?
Jordan Hall. Big baby
Hall.
He got some key snaps last year. Some people say he's going to turn a corner. I heard a lot about Jarrett. Somebody has to. Interesting fact about the D-line before I give you my breakout is I followed Nazir Stackhouse on TikTok, on the Dogs Down South TikTok.
Nice.
If you don't, so I love listening to him because he talks about the culture and the DNA of Georgia, and his TikTok page is very intimidating. It's one of those, if you're going to come to Georgia, this is what this is like. And he shows you a day in the life and some of the things. So this morning, his TikTok it showed 6:45 a.m. And he said, if there's one thing you're going to have to do right here at Georgia is you're going to have to get your weight right. And if you don't, you got to be at class at 7 a.m. and you basically have a cardio class. And he's like, look, it's not like something that we look at as daunting, but you're either going to get it right or they're going to get it right for you. And then he showed, him at 6:45, and then he showed the clock at like 7:50. And he did not look like the same guy, bro. So I don't even know what that workout looked like, but it was cool, man. And it's just this showing of the culture of Georgia. And, he didn't come in there. He's like, he didn't look like, dude, either get your weight right or they're going to do this stupid crap to you. He was like, he's like, listen, I get it, but I'm ready. I'm ready to clock in, to go to work and to do it. But here's
You want
my,
to win?
I'm going to
That's
have
what it takes.
yeah, I agree. I have my long shot breakout player. I think it's going to have to happen. I really do, because I don't see another person that's going to be able to. I don't see the person that is going to be able to take this on. I mean, you got the Dan Jackson, you have the Daniel Sisava, but I think KJ Bolden has to be a breakout player this year in the secondary. I think he has to be everything that we recruited him to be. I think Malachi Starks was that when we recruited him as a freshman. And so KJ Bolden has been on campus for a while, and it was a tie for me, because I also think Ellis Robinson has to grow up a little bit here too, because I think we have to get to a point where you don't have a Kamari Lassiter to lean on. I think that Humphreys will be great on one side. I think he'll be a lockdown on one side, but you don't know. I mean, Lassiter, you still don't know about Humphreys, because Humphreys almost jumped ship on us.
No.
So when you look at KJ Bolden, I think that he is the missing piece, because he is the reason why they didn't go chase Caleb Downs harder, right? He is the reason why he was recruited there, because somebody knew Bullard, and we knew that Bullard might not be a lock. Now, I think KJ Bolden is it, but I'll tell you the one that's kind of my long shot. But the one person I think that needs to have a breakout year is one that wasn't with us last year. I think we have a very, very talented running back room, but I think we have until we see it, we don't know what we have, right? Because we have a lot of questions with Branson Robinson. We have a lot of questions with can Rod Robinson, can Paul, can they step up? I mean, we don't have a Dejon Edwards style running back that we know of right now. I think the person who has to have a breakout year is Trevor Etienne.
Hey, I was going to say that, but you said returning starter, man. I thought we were limited.
He wasn't a starter for Georgia. He wasn't a starter
loophole.
For Georgia.
A loophole. Oh, okay.
A loophole. But I think he needs to have a breakout year. And I'll tell you why. It's because you don't know if Branson's how healthy he is. We haven't seen him cut. We haven't seen him run. True. I do know we have one of the best training staffs in the country. And Ron Corson he's gonna not let him out there until Branson can do everything he needs to do. But like when we step out on the field, we have a ton of young talent. I'm interested to see what starts to happen. But I do think you don't have right now, entering into G-Day, you don't have Dejon. You knew there was going to be a Dejon Milton type duo type thing. Milton was going to be the bruiser. Dejon was going to be the guy out of the backfield. I think Trevor Etienne needs to have a breakout year. But there's a loophole. Sidetrack real quick. What do you guys think about the decision to add the sixth scholarship tight end, Benjamin Urasek from Stanford? What do you guys know about him? You guys hop in, doesn't matter.
I don't know a lot about him, but I don't know. Our offense is going to be so ridiculous. I mean, if everybody stays healthy, I mean, we could have 2,000-yard rushers. We could have a 5,000-yard passer. We could have a couple 1,000-yard receivers. We could average 50 points a game. I mean, it could be 2021. It could be COVID year Bama. Mac Jones, Jameson Williams, Mechie, and Devontae Smith. To be that type of thing going on.
Yeah. What do you think? You know much about this guy, Bobby?
I looked him up a little bit, some of his numbers. I don't recall seeing him play at all. And I trust Kirby. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
sidebar. Kirby wanted to go after this guy. So it's that's interesting you said that.
Right. So I trust Kirby's opinion on that. He sees what goes on at practice, so he's more aware of any deficiency we might have, whether it's blocking or whether it's getting off of the block, right? So overall talent, man, Delp, Lucky, Sperlin, they're all talented guys, right? But I feel like that there's at least one area where they didn't develop at the level that Kirby expected him to, and that was the reason he felt the need to go out and get this guy.
Yes, sir.
And so I trust him. I don't know much about this guy, but I trust what Kirby does, right? He wouldn't have went and got the guy if we didn't need him.
Yeah, here's the thing.
And Kirby, we trust.
Yeah, I don't see. There's one thing I agree with on that, and I'm glad you said it, was what I don't think and what I think that Kirby is concerned about. In previous years, we've had tight ends that you have your elusive tight end, which was our Brock Bowers for a while, and you had your Washington, who was your big blocking tight end, but could sprint out and catch some passes here or there. He was more of a threat blocking, and he was a threat to come out and catch a pass, but he wasn't one that was. It wasn't like he was going to line up and run routes all the time, which was what Bowers was. I think what needs to be said about this is when I look at Delp and when I look at Lawson Lucky and I look at Pierce Spurlin, do you know what I didn't see in all three of those guys? They're not really as bulky as George is used to at the tight end. Right. I think this kid is big. I think he's got some height on him. I think he's got a little bit of nobody's going to be a Darnell Washington, but he has that type of stature. I mean, heck, I think everybody saw the picture that is going around that's killing Brock Bowers' draft status right now when he stood by Gronk. But this kid Urasek is I think he reminds you of that other pace of tight end, that big blocking tight end that will sometimes slip out there like Darnell Washington did and catch that pass that you're not expecting. We all knew that Brock was going to get two people a lot. This guy may actually get a lot of blocking accomplished, but he may actually, he has 900 and something career receiving yards for Stanford. So he's caught a few passes. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that I agree with you, Bob. I agree with both of you guys. I think this adds another layer, because unless Pierce Spurlin overnight put some weight on, he's got a little bit of that athletic build to him, kind of like Delp is. I mean, Delp's a strong guy. You can see he's cut. He's a pretty cut, strong guy, athletic. But out of those tight ends that we have, and even the kid coming in that they're raving about, I think is Rettel or something like that is his name. I forget his name. The freshman, still very athletic guy. There's no Darnell. I think Kirby used to.
Darnell, it's an anomaly, dude. That dude's a giant.
Nightmare. Kirby used to sit back and just twiddle his thumbs with Darnell and Brock, because they were like two different styles, but both of them were incredibly dangerous at what they did. And Darnell would block you with just insane blocks. And I think if we're Georgia, we've ran the ball well, don't get me wrong, but do we have an opportunity this year to finally see a Nick Chubb, style year from our back, or a Todd Gurley type year from a back? Even though you're sharing, I'm ready. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to see some running backs hit some holes and cause some chaos. Yes. Because if they do that, Carson Beck is going to win the Heisman, dude. If you allow him to be able to hand the ball off and succeed, because we all know that there were stints at the time this year that people were like, okay, it's third and Bobo, it's second and Bobo.
Dominant.
Right. But if we can do that and not have to depend on the line all the time to just part the Red Seas, we all know that when Gurley was and Chubb were around, that was not the years where we had the best offensive lines. We had good offensive lines, but we also had great vision. No offense, Nick Chubb doesn't have great lines he's running behind at Cleveland. That's probably why he's in the injury he has now. And then Gurley, when he was there, we can talk about the lines that he ran behind. I don't think the Rams' offensive line was the most impressive. I don't think the Atlanta offensive line was the most impressive. So we all look at it and go, those are guys, when they were at Georgia, they made things happen when plays didn't go the right way. We've seen time and time again when Georgia has faltered, it's because there's a threat, but there's not a guy they look in the background and go, we got a plan around him. I love Dejon. I love Edwards. I love Milton, but nobody planned around them this year. Nobody had them on the top of the thing going, all right, let's talk about Dejon Edwards. Let's talk about Kendall Milton. They didn't. They talked about Brock Bowers. They talked about Carson.
Beck.
They talked about how they like to balance the run, the play action with the pass, how Bobo. But to be able to lean on the run to open the pass is something we have not had in a couple of years, man. And that could be very deadly for Carson.
That's true.
I like this tight end guy. Final question tonight, and then we're going to be done. I think it's good for the end. Actually, two. Let's do two. We talked a little bit about Lab McConkey getting ready in April to see the NFL draft. What do you guys? Is it a yes or no? Do you guys think Lab McConkey goes? Do you think he elevated himself up to first round material draft stock wise? What do you think, Adam? You look like you're wanting to hop in quick. What do you think?
No.
Okay.
I just think injury prone will hold him back.
Yeah.
You take that in, but take the injury away, then it's a yes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
The dude just gets it done. He goes out there and he grinds, and he is a premier route runner.
Oh, it was painful to say no, but
but yeah, I'm in the same boat with Fish, man. Like, take the injury part out of it, right? Oh, and absolutely, but it's a big gamble to go first round. That's a lot of money to spend on someone who essentially was out half of the season.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he missed a lot of time the year before that too.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think he gets his name called no later than third, but I think he's not a first round pick. I think that's
I'd like to see him in Atlanta, third round pick.
I think there's a lot of things swirling around Atlanta. I mean, we could talk about Raheem Morris. We could talk about a lot of things.
I think that was a 100% good hire.
Yeah. You need somebody to. I mean, you couldn't get Quinn. I think you needed somebody to get the culture back right there. It was so just out of whack, man.
Well, I think Quinn's already proven he's not a good head coach. He's a way better coordinator than he will ever be a head coach. He bombed in Atlanta. I was so glad Seattle didn't hire him. Sorry, I'm not trying to. I have my whole other opinion.
No, you're good. I mean, I think it was a bomb hire for Washington. And when I say a bomb, and not a good bomb, it's like a blow up hire. It's gonna.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I don't know where Washington's going. That's a whole other podcast.
Yes,
to note, though, 11 players invited to the combine. Dejon got an invite. Kendall Milton, Lab McConkey, Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, a steal. Watch out.
Yeah.
Rosemy-Jacksaint is a steal wherever he goes. Brock Bowers, Amarius Mims, Cedric Van Pran, Zion Lowe got an invite. Kamari Laster, Javon Bullard. Tyke Smith had an incredible Senior Bowl.
Yep.
So 11 invites. Last question of the night we'll go out on. So what? Let's see how I phrase this question. So what do we think as far as when we look at coming into G-Day, right? Do we think right now that we are done with the coaching carousel? Do we think we are fully settled in? Do we think everybody is where they're going to be at this time? I mean, obviously Alabama is putting the final touches on their coaching staff. I don't know if they've hired anybody at UCLA right now, but are there any other big coaching changes out there that we see happening? And if so, who do we think it is?
I think everybody's pretty much where they're going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time to go to work.
Yeah. At this stage in the game, if you're keeping doors open, you're probably putting yourself at a disadvantage with spring right around the corner. Right? Yeah. You're going to need some continuity in your staff, right? If you don't have that, like the portal's going to open up after spring, right?
The revolving door.
And if you
gotta get your people in there.
If you don't have any continuity, you're not helping yourself. So you need to make your decisions, make them now, stick with them, and get to rolling at this stage in the game. It's too late in the game to start doing coaching carousel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that to say is because it goes back to the fact that it's the reason why I will tell you that, number one, not just because college football is around the corner. It's always around the corner. It just is for me.
Yep.
But if I am Ohio State and if I am Alabama, I think February was a little late for this chaos in their rooms. I'm really curious to see how they mesh during spring. This starts to speed up really quick, guys. Spring ball, it
Dude,
doesn't
it's already
drag.
Valentine's Day, man.
Exactly, man. It doesn't drag. March gets us into spring breaks, and then they come back, and next thing we're into spring ball. There's 17 to 20 practices, and then we hit a a spring game. We weight training hard. Portal happens. We'll have some news there, but then we'll be into the brunt of summer workouts. And
It's funny,
so,
man. Me and my wife, whenever America's Got Talent comes back home, that's how we know football is right around the corner.
yeah, man. Yeah, so
That's when you know,
I,
man. That's when you know.
I asked that question just to merely bring out the fact that I'm really, really, really wondering how the unsettledness of Ohio State and Alabama as they, I mean, UCLA, nobody really is expecting anything from UCLA in the Big Ten this year, but Ohio State's picked to win the Big Ten this year, and Alabama, previous to Saban, was picked to be a contender to play for the SEC championship again, and so. But I'm really, really concerned with these late scuffles. And the NFL, the reason I asked that too, guys, is the NFL is still moving pieces around. We just finished the Super Bowl. So there's still pieces that are not in places in the NFL world. And the reason I say the NFL world is because the NFL is becoming more appealing because the college coaches are getting a little bit tired of NIL and recruiting year round. So it makes it very intriguing. I heard I saw a meme the other day that said Andy Reid's retiring and their first pick is Kirby Smart. I don't know how many times somebody's going to repost about that. I think if it did happen, you think Saban was a moment, I think we would all probably have to get a new medicine to control blood pressure, because it would definitely be out of the left field corner that would happen. But I say that to say I'm concerned about Ohio State and Alabama with those late hires and the late scuffling, because not only is it just in place for preparation for the year, but it's culture, right? Those players have to start learning who are they trusting, right? And for Alabama, we've said Saban's going to the broadcast booth, man. So we don't have that, and it might be good for Alabama, right? But we don't have that Saban guy around going, well, if things are not going good, I can lean on Nick Saban. Not now. Not now. He has officially said, I'm golfing and I am, bull crapping with the boys on the game day set. But anyways, Bobby, final thoughts tonight.
Yeah, just excited about football, man, and looking forward to see what happens. Looking forward to spring day coming and going, and kind of depth charts getting set to see who you really have, who you don't, right? See who becomes available that might be a really good pickup for a team. So we'll be having some very interesting conversations once spring wraps up.
Yeah, I agree. Fish, final thoughts?
Year-round college football is what we're what it's looking like now, boys, and I'm here for it. I just wish we could do it without all the controversy and all the, it's all changing, and we just got to get used to it. We got to keep up with it. We got to, whether we like it or not, decisions are going to be made, and hopefully it doesn't change too much. Hopefully it doesn't lose its mystique, which it's already lost some, but it hasn't lost it all.
Yeah, gives us something to talk about, though.
Yeah, I know, and that's good because we need content right now, because I enjoy doing this too much not to have anything to talk about. So
yeah. Well, the good news is next time we get together, we'll be talking about. I don't think it'll be way too early, but we'll be getting into March and talking about what does depth charts look like. Wasn't really a lot to talk about out of National Signing Day. We did sign a 3-star kid out of somewhere in Georgia. This sounds bad, right? 3-star kid out of wide receiver. Kind of last minute added a receiver to the mix. I don't want to say that to say he's not important. I'm just saying that it was kind of out of the ordinary. I think we flipped him from where he was going, but not much on the horizon for National Signing Day. So it was very quiet. I think the biggest thing is Ryan Williams, actually signed with Alabama finally after I think he's just drug him along for a couple more visits, just a little more, I don't know, little bit more enamored to just sit in front of home crowds and get bedazzled a little bit. Now he's signed, and they probably won't say much more to him. He don't get any of those trips. So. But anyways, final thoughts tonight. Yeah, next time we see each other, we're gonna be talking. It'd be cool, man. Spring depth charts. Hopefully, we're not talking about any more coaching carousels. Hopefully, that last question, it's true. We're done with that for a while, but definitely coming into G-Day, we're looking at G-Day rosters, and after G-Day's over, we got more portal talk. But the good news is after that, we're into the season and we're on to it. So, as always, for Bobby Ryals, for Adam Fisher, thanks guys for joining tonight. Make sure you go drop a like and a follow, share the podcast. Go check us out on TikTok, Dogs Down South as well. And then if you were not able to join live tonight, this will be up in 24 hours on Apple Podcasts. Go back, listen, share. Thanks so much for joining tonight. You guys have a great night. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.